Okay, y'all, so we have winter storms in effect. I will read this whole thing. Vortex will help create nightmare winter weather across 35 states, including parts of the South. Potentially hundreds of thousands of people may go without electricity and heat for days. One, I don't know how to say that, meteorologist said by Abigail Adams. Published on January 21st, 2026, 1:34 p.m. EST. Need to know. A winter storm is expected to impact more than half of the United States population beginning January 23rd and continuing through Jan 26th. Frigid temperatures that are helping fuel the storm will impact 2/3 of the country by Jan 25th. The cold temperatures are thanks to a polar vortex that has already started to dip down into the U.S. A massive winter storm is expected to impact more than half the United States population with some help from an Arctic air mass. An Arctic cold front will bring frigid sub-zero and single-digit temperatures to 2/3 of the country by Sunday, January 25th. According to the latest short-range forecast discussion from the National Weather Service, this air mass will help produce a major winter storm that will stretch from the central and southern plains to the east coast, beginning on Friday, January 23rd, and continuing into early next week. But much about the storm remains uncertain for many as forecasters attempt to determine exactly how far north the system will track. Snow could begin falling in the south beginning on Friday, with winter weather officially reaching the southwest or the southeast by Saturday, January 24th, according to Fox Weather. Significant icing is expected during the storm and could potentially impact more than a dozen states from Texas to Delaware. Frigid temperatures are also expected both during and after the storm, which could create hazards both on the roadways and at home, as pipes could burst from the chilly temperatures, according to ACCU weather. These cold temperatures will come thanks to a polar vortex that has already started to dip down into the U.S. and is expected to impact the nation through the end of the month. Potentially hundreds of thousands of people may go without electricity and heat for days, said ACCU weather chief meteorologist Jonathan Porter. Forecasts currently suggest that portions of several states, including Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, could get a foot of snow, while some areas could see upward of 18 inches, according to Fox Weather. Further east, the highest snow totals are expected from Nashville through western North Carolina, and 2 feet of accumulation possible in the Appalachians. However, it is unclear exactly how the storm will impact the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Through states in those regions are preparing for their own dose of winter weather. The best chance of significant snowfall along the East Coast is expected in central Virginia, Maryland, and southern New Jersey. The track of snow will determine just how much the snow will fall in the Northeast through the afternoon of Monday, January 26th. A more northern track would bring higher snow totals to the region. Gusty winds are also expected with the Arctic blast accompanying the storm, which the NWS, or the National Weather Service, said will lead to dangerous wind chills that could reach as low as -50 degrees Fahrenheit in the northern plains. So watch out for that, guys. Extreme cold watches, warnings, and advisories are in effect for parts of the northern plains and upper Midwest as of Wednesday, January 21st, today. Several major metro areas are expected to be impacted by the storm, including Dallas, Austin, Oklahoma City, Nashville, Atlanta, Charlotte, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston, according to ACCU weather. Winter storm watches are currently in effect from central Mexico to central Tennessee and northern Georgia, incorporating much of Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas, the National Weather Service said. This winter blast is expected to impact an estimated 175 million Americans, Fox Weather reported. And I think that's about all. We'll watch a video right here and see what's going to happen. This.
So as of right now, it is still looking like we are going to get that weekend winter storm. So that's going to be happening sometime on Saturday. The timeline's actually pushed back, so maybe Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, with the heaviest going into Saturday night and throughout much of Sunday afternoon. So it is going to happen for a long duration, which means good amounts of accumulation is likely for much of the state. Watching out for that potential warm wedge that could move into the mid layers of the atmosphere. So if that happens, then it's going to be changing over the snow to a little bit of freezing rain, sleet. That's just going to mess up with the snow totals a little bit. So we're going to watch out for that. But I know that some very cold air is going to be in place. So it is going to be able to support a lot of snowfall. And it's actually been trending. The models have been going into higher amounts of snow. So the likelihood of seeing over 6 inches is now greater than what it looked like yesterday. So let's take you through it here. And you'll notice that now that area of low pressure begins to develop, we've seen a surge of that moisture. So we're seeing rain for southern areas. But looking at Saturday at 6 o'clock, that snow is stretching across much of the center of the country. So it is going to be impacting a lot of states, including Kentucky, Tennessee, even North Carolina. We'll see that cold air surging southward here. As we go into Sunday morning, notice that the shades get a little...
So, actually, I'm in Kentucky. I'm the lower part of Kentucky. Looks like we're gonna get a little bit of mix and snow at the same time. I don't know what's gonna happen, guys. From all the way from probably Chicago, Denver, to probably over to I don't know where it's called. It's gonna go down into Houston, stuff like that. Mixed. Atlanta's gonna get mixed a lot. And for me, I'm just gonna freaking get snow. Can't wait for NTI Day.
Bit darker, so that's going to be happening across central Virginia through Sunday afternoon, but then it pulls out on Monday. This is a different model, brings in it a little bit earlier, and it doesn't really bring that rain snow line too far to the north. So it does look like it's going to support a little bit more in the way of snow. Of course, we'll be able to talk about the snowfall totals and the timing a little bit better as we get closer to it. But as of right now, it's just going to be really cold over the weekend with those temperatures in the 20s.
Very well. That was, okay, I guess. I guess it's freaking gonna be stuff like this. There is some more stuff. I'm going to read another one. Like this one. This seems good. I'll read this one for you. This is the last one I'll be reading, so enjoy this last part. Hopefully y'all can get through this winter storm. Okay, I hope you are able to get good stuff, get everything you need for this winter storm. Now I'm gonna start reading. Meteorologist reports this new forecast just took a bad turn. as the biggest winter storm of the season is incoming. By Mark Harris, 17 hours ago. Survival World. Credits to Survival World and Newsbreak for this news. So, looks like it's gonna stop in mostly like Albuquerque. So, let's get this. Meteorologist Ryan Hall says the setup on the map right now is not your average winter nuisance. In his words, the biggest winter storm of the season so far is on the way, and it's bringing a messy mix. Heavy snow, crippling ice, and a shot of cold that could be historic in a few places. Ryan's tone is cautious, but you can tell he's getting more concerned as he walks through what the models are showing. He keeps coming back to the same idea. Somebody is about to get a storm people talk about for a long time. The problem is, at this distance, it's still hard to say exactly who that somebody will be. Ryan says, by outlining the timeline, he says the earliest impacts begin Friday, with precipitation quickly lighting up from the Rockies toward the Appalachians. He calls it wild to watch because of how large the system is and how many states are involved at once. And right away, he draws attention to the danger zone, not the easy snow forecast, but the area where temperatures hover above freezing and everything gets complicated. Snow first, then the ice line starts fighting back. Ryan Hall says Friday into Saturday is when the first wave gets rolling, and it begins as snow in places like Kansas, Oklahoma, and he even includes parts of Missouri and Kentucky in that early snow start. Then comes the part that makes winter storm truly disruptive. The transition zone. Tried to make that sound dramatic. Ryan warns there's a stripe where snow tries to take over, and he says that's where pretty bad icing can show up. He's careful not to draw a hard line too soon because the storm track and temperatures can still wobble. Still, he flags certain cities where he thinks problems are possible if the ice scenario holds together, including places like Dallas and Memphis. Ryan is blunt about why he won't get too specific yet. He says the snow versus ice line can be too difficult to pin down right up until the event. That's a good reminder because people often hear winter storm and assume it's a simple snow map. Ryan's whole point is that this one is not simple. He tells viewers that if you're in the impacted zones on Friday, you should expect winter weather effects, but he also makes it clear the big headline part of the storm is still a step ahead. The weekend peak looks widespread and serious. According to Ryan Hall, Saturday into Sunday is when things ramp up. He describes a widespread winter storm, the probability zone, and he notes that the peak area where impacts are most likely includes both snow and ice threats. Ryan lays out a pattern that will sound familiar to anyone who's lived through these. The farther north you go, the more likely you are to stay snow. The farther south you go, the more likely you are to deal with rain, sleet, or freezing rain. What stands out is how many places he names as watch closely spots for an ice storm possibility. Ryan mentions places like Little Rock, Memphis, Huntsville, and even higher terrain areas near the Appalachians, but he immediately adds a warning. The very same city he just listed could end up with a foot of snow and no ice if the line shifts. That's not him hedging to protect his ego. That's him describing how chaotic this boundary can be when the atmosphere is balanced right on the freezing edge. Ryan repeats something that matters. If you are trying to make decisions, this is going to be a big storm for somebody, but the potential bucket is huge. That's his way of saying the storm has a wide range of outcomes depending on where the final track and temperature profile settle. He also notes that Sunday into Monday could keep icing problems going farther east and south, including parts of the Carolinas, while the snow threats expand north and east. Why this setup is so strange and why ice is the big threat. Okay, hold up. Something popped up. I'm about to go see that in a second. Ryan Hall explains this storm isn't acting like the classic movie version, where a big low-pressure system spins up and drags cold air behind it. He says what's fascinating is that the driving force is actually a massive, unusually strong high-pressure system coming out of Canada. In his view, it's not even a storm in the usual sense. It's a serious blast of Arctic air pushing far south. And then that cold air is colliding with Gulf moisture and warmth that's already sitting there. That collision is what creates this mess. There's the picture right there. Looks like some is going into Denver. We're not going to get hit much in that day. The rain we got today was not just like almost normal rain. It's just preparing us. Get ready for this. Ryan says the snow is going to get the headlines, but he's more worried about the ice threat, especially for the southern plains and the deep south. Ice is the kind of winter hazard that turns bad roads into power out for days, and Ryan talks about that directly. He describes a persistent ban on the model output areas that keep showing pink and purple where ice risk could be significant. He points to zones between Houston and Dallas, and he also mentions areas stretching toward Jackson, Birmingham, and potentially even Atlanta, depending on where the line ends up. He's honest about uncertainty. Ryan says his gut usually expects a northward trend as you get closer, but that gut instinct is often based on tracking low pressure systems. This time, he says, is different. It's different. The unusual high pressure dominance makes it uncharted waters, and that makes the forecast harder. That kind of honesty is important. People don't need fake confidence. They need a clear picture of risk and what could change. Ryan also walks through a scenario where some areas, like Oklahoma City, stay mostly snow while an ice strip sets up farther south and southeast. I should just say southeast. And he says places like Richmond, Virginia, look like they'll stay all snow in his view, and he feels confident some areas in Kentucky won't have to deal with ice. The big question, he says, is what happens south of that. Snow totals look high, but the real nightmare is the ice plus brutal cold. Ryan Hall knows everyone wants snow totals, so he's giving early signals while stressing they are not locked. He says a widespread 6 to 8 inches is a reasonable early idea, with some areas possibly getting 14 inches or more. Then he highlights the national blend of models painting a drastic snow bullseye in North Carolina and Virginia, including an eye-catching average around Richmond. He explains why that matters. It's not just one wild model throwing out a ridiculous number. He says multiple models are consistently hitting that region, which pushes the averages farther. Whew, this looks bad. But I'll get back to it. Ryan also notes there's less consistency farther north into the northeast, and that uncertainty shows up in things like possibly dry slots or mixing lines creeping north. But he still suggests there may be a band somewhere with a foot or more of snow. The challenge is figuring out where that band lands, whether it's right on one corridor or shifted hundreds of miles north of south. He name drops cities and numbers as examples of what the blend is suggesting, including places like Nashville, Knoxville, Memphis, and Little Rock, while also saying he expects some areas in Tennessee and Arkansas could exceed a foot even if current averages look lower. He points out a second snow bullseye back in the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles areas, partly because confidence is higher earlier in the timeline there. Then Ryan pivots back to the danger he doesn't want people to ignore: ice. He says he's seen model running showing over an inch of ice in places like Atlanta and even more parts of North Carolina, with other scenarios putting significant ice potential around Dallas too. He doesn't want to advertise the worst case ice numbers too early because he's worried people will accuse meteorologists of fear-mongering if the line shifts and the outcome improves. But he's also clear that the current signal holds. The situation could be catastrophic in the places that get heavy icing. The reason is simple. Ice brings power outages. And Ryan says the cold air behind the system isn't just chilly. He's talking about potentially extreme, dangerous cold settling into areas that don't handle it well. Ryan gives an example that sticks in your brain. If power goes out across the deep south and the temperatures plunge, you could be looking at raw temperatures below zero in places that rarely see it. That's where winter storms stop being pretty snow and become general survival problems for people without heat. He says he hopes what's the modeling after? He hopes the models are wrong. He reminds viewers weather people are wrong all the time, But he also says if the threat doesn't back off, then the next conversations need to be about preparation, not curiosity. Ryan closes by looking ahead at the border pattern. He says the 6 through 10-day outlook keeps the eastern half of the country locked into a brutal cold setup. And he even mentions signals that other storms could follow after this one. Winter isn't just showing up in his telling. It's setting up shop. A practical takeaway. Ryan Hall's messages between the maps and model names is that this high impact setup with lots of uncertainty right where it matters most. Snow is disruptive, but ice the kind of thing that snaps trees, drops lines, and makes normal life impossible fast. If you're in the potential impact zone, the smart move is to treat this like a real threat. Now, then adjust to the forecast tightens charge devices. Make sure you've got a safe way to stay warm if power fails. Don't wait until the night before to find out the grocery shelves are bare and the gas stations are slammed. And if you're watching from outside the bullseye, don't get smug. Ryan's whole point is that the storm's bucket is wide. The sharp edges of this forecast can still shift. Wow, that was a lot. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Go to YouTube. There's probably gonna be a live something, and stay safe, every person. Stay safe out there. Jaden, out.